Yeah, I'm ready.
You're ready, okay.
Right, I've started recording, everybody.
Okay, so let me introduce you to Jamie Sarah of Definitely, and Marketing in Uncertain Times.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. I actually do have slides. Shall I share them?
Yes.
It says the host has disabled screen sharing.
Right, I'm going to make you the host, okay? But that means I can't mute anybody.
No worries. I don't have to do the slides.
Yeah, we like slides. There you go. You're the host.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. Present a view. Can you see it?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, amazing. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here. My name's Jamie Sarah. I am a business coach. I am a marketing consultant, and I'm also a mindset expert. I have been helping businesses to do great marketing and become better leaders for more than a decade. I have been coaching full-time since 2016. I've worked with hundreds of clients. I have won awards. I've been featured in Forbes. I've been featured in Thrive Global. And more recently, I've been doing a lot more speaking to help a much wider audience than I've ever helped before. And I'm pretty legit. I studied at Harvard Business School. I worked at Thomson Reuters for 5 years, both in London and in New York. I also worked at SAP, and I've worked with companies from brand new startups to the biggest companies in the world. So today I'm going to cover with you two main things that are really, really important to you and your business surviving and thriving during these uncertain times. The first, agile and market your business effectively as external conditions are changing and evolving. And the second is about you as a human being, and that's about how to lead your team while staying mentally resilient and focused. And these two things are really important. If you're marketing really effectively, but you're actually not resilient and focused, then it's just not going to work as well. But when we have these two things both taken care of, you are much better positioned to survive and thrive. So like I said, I help service-based directors primarily to grow their businesses through a blend of mindset coaching, business coaching, and also marketing consulting. I was a finalist in the Kensington and Chelsea Business Awards, very exciting, great privilege. Was one female executive coach of the year last year, which is great. I have private programs. I also run a mastermind program called the Aligned Business Mastermind. I have some home study programs, and then I also run a free Facebook community called Business the Aligned Way, where I share really practical tips on optimizing your mindset and also doing great business. Now, I would love for those of you who are live, tell me in the chat box, I want to know about your business. Tell me, what do you do in your business, and what problem does your business help your customers to solve? And this will just really help me to contextualize what I'm saying for you. So just let me know in the comments, what kind of business do you have? Who do you serve? What do you help them with? Okay, so cultivating certainty. Now, you will all have noticed that there are people who have been losing their shit, excuse my French, who've been losing their shit and deciding that their business is not going to work, deciding that we're all screwed, deciding that nothing's going to work during this time. And the truth is that you can still survive and you can still thrive during this time, but you need to be able to cultivate certainty both within yourself And you also need to be able to cultivate certainty in your customers. Now, some people have got really comfortable over the years with actually not having to do marketing in a particularly agile way. They've actually been able to succeed in spite of doing marketing in a fairly lazy way, and in, to be honest, a fairly mediocre way. And so I believe that one of the gifts of this time that we're in right now is that we're all being forced to be more agile and to be more nimble in our marketing, and to really laser in on exactly what do we help our customers resolve, and why are we uniquely positioned to help them resolve that. So in an uncertain market, customers are particularly sensitive to things like your credentials. They're particularly sensitive to whether you're truly an expert at what you do versus a self-appointed expert. They're particularly sensitive to things like robust processes. So if you have any either scientific processes, or if you have any internal processes that help you do what you do even more effectively, it's more important now than ever that you shout that from the rooftops. It's also more important now than ever that you explain clearly what are the risks that you help your customers to avoid, and what's the certainty that you give them. So let's say, for example, so Nicola wants to have a side business teaching people to help their kids eat well. Amazing. John Lewis, yes, amazing. BGM firm of chartered accountants with 75 staff and 3,000 clients in Kensington. Fantastic. So I'm going to take these examples and I'm going to tell you about how you can cultivate more certainty. So let's take the example of helping your children eat well, right? If a parent's child is not eating well, that provides them with a sense of anxiety, with a sense of nervousness, with a sense of worry about the future of their child or children's health. However, when you're teaching parents to help their kids eat well, you're providing with a sense of certainty that their children can be in the best physical and mental health so that they can live an amazing life, right? And live as long as possible. And they can achieve, what they need to achieve at school. So that's an example there. I'm going to also take the example of John Lewis and Waitrose and Partners. So John Lewis is a fantastic example of a business that provides a deep, deep sense of certainty that what they are selling is high quality. Got some more comments coming in. I'm a copywriter, I make words on their websites, work harder so they make more money. Okay, fantastic. So John Lewis and Waitrose do an amazing job of providing certainty that what you are buying is going to be something that is going to be exactly what you wanted, that's going to be high quality, and that you're not going to be disappointed by. So that's going to be a really important thing to emphasize right now. Now, accountants, well, here's the thing, there's a lot of businesses where they are confused about their numbers. And the more clients I work with, the more I realize just how many businesses are confused about their numbers. And they need clarity on their numbers more now than ever. And they need to know exactly what their numbers are, and they need to be tracking them, have their eyes on them like a hawk. So that's the certainty that you're providing. You're providing the certainty they know exactly where they are, that everything behind the scenes is taken care of, so that they can focus on what they do best, and they can focus on income generating activities. Copywriting. So again, making more money, really important. If a business runs out of money, then they are screwed. And so because the words on their website, I would be looking at how much traffic are they getting, being curious about how much traffic they're getting. If you have potential clients who are getting lots of traffic, helping them see that actually they are literally throwing money down the drain if they're having traffic to their website that's then not converting because the words are not as effective as they could be. And obviously revenue is really going to help businesses to stay afloat right now. They can't stay afloat without revenue. Most businesses do not have enough buffer and reserves in the bank to be able to get through this time without generating additional revenue. So those are a couple of examples there. If anyone else wants to let me know in the chat box, again, I'll come back to you and give you some specific advice. So just to be very, very clear, you don't need to provide certainty around COVID, okay? That's not your job. Your job is not to provide certainty around what's going to happen with COVID. Your job is to provide certainty in relation to the thing that you offer, okay? So for me, the thing that I provide certainty around is I help business owners to make sure that they are doing business effectively, that they are maxing out their revenue streams, and that their sales and marketing processes are as effective as possible, so they can be maximizing their revenue during this time, independent of what's going on externally. Okay, so I've done a few talks talking about the importance of not discounting during this time. And I really stand by that. It's really important not to discount during this time. However, what can be really valuable to cultivate certainty, to cultivate security, and to have that business coming in, even if your customers, if their cash reserves are squeezed, is for you to provide flexible payment terms, including more flexible payment terms than you may currently, and also to think about creating additional offerings that you may not have yet and marketing those offerings in a way that really speaks to your customers' pain points. So you may be able to think of some specific examples where businesses have been super, super agile. Their core offering is simply just not as needed right now, and that is just a practical fact. And so they've pivoted into different offerings. A great example is there's been some photographers who haven't been able to go ahead with normal shoots, and what they've been doing is they've been doing what's called window shoots. So a friend of mine is in LA. She's a very popular photographer, and she's been going around to people's houses and she takes photos of them from outside their house. How cool is that? There's also been photographers who've been doing shoots over FaceTime. So literally they come on FaceTime, you position the laptop or you position the phone, and then they will, using the print screen function, they will photograph you through FaceTime. So if there's an offering that literally cannot take place right now for logistical reasons, think about what can you create based on your existing expertise, based on the amazing track record that you have for doing what you do, that is going to fill that need in the meantime. It may be something that you just do temporarily and then you get back to your normal offerings, but equally it may be something that works so well that you decide that actually you want to continue it afterwards. So just really think about that, and again, feel free to let me know in the chat box about your business, and I can give you some ideas and suggestions. Now, I also just want to emphasize here that it can be really easy to take for granted what makes your offerings important and special because you're immersed in them all day long. And so it's important to almost take your hat off as you and think about, if you were someone who had never ever engaged in your business, what would you want and need to know about you? Now, a great thing that you can use to help with this is you can actually think about, what do people normally ask you? If someone is coming to see you for the first time, or they're interested in your offerings for the first time, what are the most common questions that they ask you? So that's a great place to start with thinking about what to share in your marketing. Another thing that's important is thinking about what free content you can create that adds value based on your expertise, based on your zone of genius, that you can use both to support potential customers during this time, including potential customers who may not have the budget to work with you currently, but they will do in the future. What can you create to help them even during this period, such that then when they do have the cash, it's going to be a no-brainer for them to want to invest in your offerings. So examples might be relating to your specific technical expertise, anything that's around helping them to thrive amidst COVID in relation to the specific area of expertise that you have, but also giving away some pieces of advice, generic advice that maybe you wouldn't normally. Maybe you'd normally keep that advice back. Now is a great time to focus on being generous and know that that will be returned to you many times over in the future. Now, I want to just give a caveat here. You want to be generous with generic advice. Okay, it's important not to give away your core offerings. If your core offerings involve totally personalized advice that's very extensive, you don't want to give away your core offerings, okay? But generic advice, content that can speak to as many people and help as many people as possible all at once is a great idea. Things like PDFs, like 7 ways to make sure your accounts are in order right now, 7 ways to make sure that your children are eating healthy right now, 7 ways to avoid getting sued right now, 7 ways to adapt and protect your contracts right now. You know, there's lots of legal stuff going on. And it's also very important for you to remember that your offerings are really, really important and needed. Okay? Again, this is something that it can be easy to take for granted because you're in it all day long and you're so used to getting all this positive feedback. You're so used to getting positive testimonials. You're so used to people saying it's great. No matter what you are offering, what you offer is important and valuable, and it's just your job to make it very, very clear exactly how it helps and to talk about it in very compelling language. Now, this is a really important mindset piece here. Don't entertain any thoughts that no one's going to buy. If you're engaging in marketing, be it doing a Facebook Live, be it doing an Instagram story, be it creating a piece of content, be it doing a webinar, be it you know, sending out email marketing. If you're in the mindset that no one's going to buy right now or no one's going to invest right now, your thoughts have an impact on what you then are going to see. Yeah. Now, this is not just woo-woo. This is because if you're creating something from a place of no one's going to buy, you're just not going to create something that's as good. It's not going to come across as confidently. You are going to be less inspired, less passionate, less assertive, less motivated. And so for that reason, you are less likely to see as positive results. So do not allow yourself to get up in that thoughts. If you notice those thoughts coming up, just remember, you are not your thoughts. Not everything you think is true. Thinking can be a very dangerous activity. And one of your most important jobs right now is to keep your brain in check, keep your mind in check, keep those thoughts focused in a productive and a proactive place. And something that I recommend to really help with this is journaling. So you can every day write down why you're passionate about what you do, what your mission is with the work that you're doing, and literally write things out like, I'm amazing at what I do, I serve, insert your target audience very powerfully, it's my duty to share my offerings with this audience, you know, my offerings have never been more needed than right now. You can literally write out positive affirmations. And what happens when you do this, again, not just a woo-woo thing, there is a part of your brain called the reticular activating system that when you write out certain affirmations, it handwritten on paper, your brain processes them as truth. And then your brain is able to calm down and stay focused and stay on track. And I also want to remind you that you have a duty and a moral obligation to promote and share what it is that you're offering. I've seen a lot of business owners retreat because they think, I don't know what to say. It's such an awkward time. You know, my offering is so not urgent and not important compared to like the need for masks, for example. Well, yeah, people need masks. There are certain things that are at the very highest level of urgency in terms of what people need to make it through this time. And again, doesn't mean that other things aren't also really important and that you don't also have a duty to share, because you do. You have a duty and a moral obligation. Now you've all got great businesses that are very, very needed and are solving really, really important problems. Now, it's also important for you to acknowledge what's going on, but don't over focus on it. I've seen some people really go off track with this and focus too much on COVID in their marketing when COVID actually has absolutely no relevance to their offerings. If you are specifically helping your customers with something that is related to COVID, by all means mention it. If you're not, it is better not to mention it. Now, a couple of great examples of this are, I've seen sportswear companies referencing home working. So they've been sending out marketing saying things like, you know, the comfiest gear for home working, or you know, comfortable I've forgotten the exact term, but like comfortable clothes that can get you through working from home, get you, you know, wherever you are. Things like that really work well. You don't need to be focusing on COVID unless your offerings are specifically relevant to it. Also, a dose of playfulness, whether it's now or at any other period. Contextually appropriate playfulness that's relevant to your offerings is very much being welcomed by consumers, be it you know, B2C or B2B consumers. They're really appreciating it right now because it's refreshing. There is so much seriousness going on, and so if you're able to zoom in, be it in their inbox or on their social media feed or wherever else, and have a bit of playfulness, if that's appropriate for your business. Obviously there's certain businesses where it isn't, then that's a good idea too. Like I said, being service oriented and creating as much free content as possible is a really good idea. Now, I want to move on to the piece around staying mentally resilient and focused. And there's really two components to staying mentally resilient and focused. By the way, if you have any questions at any point while I'm speaking, just feel free to let me know in the chat box and I will address them. So there's two components to staying mentally resilient and focused. One is staying grounded in your body, and one is staying grounded in your mind. Now, there's some really basic but very powerful tips to stay grounded in your body. One is walking in nature. Ideally, if you can, barefoot. If you can't, no worries, but if you can, you're going to get an even more enhanced effect. When you are walking in nature, when you're walking on the grass, it literally reduces inflammation in your body. You are sending any frenzied energy basically when you touch on the earth. So you think about the plugs in the wall, right, and how they earth. It's the same thing when we walk on the grass and we walk in nature. We're literally earthing. Yeah. So any kind of frantic, frenzied energy literally drains away into the earth. Also getting close to water, be it a river, be it a lake, be it the ocean. Getting close to water is really, really valuable, has an ionizing impact on the body. Don't forget to breathe. This is such a classic one. You would not believe how many busy people forget to breathe, okay? Now, where breathing works best is when you are doing diaphragmatic breathing. And so diaphragmatic breathing is when you are breathing in for 6 and you're holding for 2 and you're breathing out for 6. So I'm gonna have you try it right now. And if you wanna just close your eyes And just breathe in for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Hold for 2, 1, 2, and out for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to do that 3 times. And as you do it, again, keep going. And as you do it, literally allow your belly to expand fully and then contract fully. So you're not just breathing and your belly is sat there doing nothing, but your belly is actually expanding and contracting fully. This is incredibly grounding, helps us get out of fight or flight mode. When we're in fight or flight, we're really good at moving very, very quickly. We are very good at sensing danger, but we are not so good, again, keep going, keep breathing, but we're not so good at thinking clearly. We're not so good at thinking creatively. We're not so good at solving problems in the most intelligent, strategic, smart way. Okay, so you can do that any time of day. Just do the diaphragmatic breathing. Breathe in for 6, hold for 2, and out for 6. This will do a few things. Like I said, it will slow down your brain. It will also help your immune system. When you're in fight or flight, your immune system is compromised, and this gets you out of that mode. A couple of other things that are really good. Epsom salt baths. Has anyone here ever tried either Epsom salt or Himalayan salt? Nicola is saying yes. I work like a charm. I think that's a yes from Nicholas as well. No? It's a pen. A pen in the mouth.
No, I've never tried, sorry, but I've heard of it.
It's really, really good. So Epsom salt and Himalayan salt, you can order them on Amazon. Our favorite billionaire, Jeff Bezos. Do you know, apparently his wife is doing really, really well. His wife got 25% of the Amazon stock, but she did help him build it, so that's very fair. Apparently, the world's wealthiest billionaires, I think their wealth has increased by something like 22 billion at least. I can't remember the exact percentage. Anyway, really interesting. The world's richest people have actually got significantly richer during this time. So if they can, I know they have an unfair advantage or a head start, but we can definitely all enhance our wealth during this time as long as we're smart. Anyway, side note there. So Himalayan salt and Epsom salts, lavender oil as well. Lavender oil, if you get a nice pure lavender oil, you can either put it in your bath or you can dab it on your wrists. You can also dab it on your neck. You can, when you're doing your deep breathing, you can literally inhale it, take a nice deep breath, and it really, really helps. The other thing you can do with lavender oil is you can spray it on your pillow. And that really helps you to sleep and rest well. Obviously, when you're sleeping well, you wake up more refreshed, you wake up feeling more focused, more clear, you make better decisions, you're calmer, you're more patient with people. Again, all feeds into resilience. Another thing that works really well is connecting to your vision, okay? So connecting to your vision, why are you doing what you're doing? What's the impact that you're committed to having in the world? So this may be articulated in your company's mission statement, or your personal mission statement may be even more specific than that. So if you don't have one yet, it's a good idea to create one and then to connect to it daily. So I recommend, for example, having it printed out, having it next to your desk, having it in the front of your notebook or in the front of your journal. Connect with that, and then every single day visualize the change that you're committed to making, visualize that change happening, visualize all the happy customers that are that you're serving and that you're going to serve in the future. Visualize the ripple effect of the work that you're doing. So if you are helping your customers help their customers better, literally visualize that ripple effect going outwards and outwards and outwards. and just connect to that every day. It's going to really help you to stay grounded. It's going to help you to stay resilient. It's also going to help you to be in your heart. One of the issues that can really hold us back in business is when we are too in our heads, when we're too in our intellectual heads, and we are not enough in our hearts. When we're in our hearts, we are more empathetic towards other people. And we all know that people buy people, okay? People buy people. The best way to increase your revenue, grow your business, is simply you help more people. And how do you help more people? By having them buy into you, right? They buy into you, they want to buy what you have to offer. Yeah, and the other thing is just to remember that you don't need to have it all figured out right now. You don't need to have the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months figured out right now in order to make good decisions and be the best version of yourself today. What you need to do is you need to know what you need to do today. You need to know what are the next 3 things on my to-do list. If you're feeling particularly overwhelmed, I recommend that you have something like a longer to-do list that's either in Evernote or in a notebook. You have that in one place, and then you have like a post-it, and you, on the post-it, you only write the next 3 things on your list, and you stick that post-it to your laptop or next to your keyboard, so that you are helping to reduce overwhelm. Because your to-do list, my to-do list right now is literally 4 pages long, and if I had that next to me all day long, I would be feeling overwhelmed, but I don't. So I don't feel overwhelmed. I only have the next 3 things. Another thing that can really help you to stay resilient and focused is being really realistic about what's achievable. So a hack that I found has really worked for me and worked for many, many of my clients is putting your tasks in your calendar as though they were meetings. When you do that, you are much more likely to be pragmatic and realistic about what's achievable, and to spot ahead of time if you're expecting yourself to do too much on a given day, so that then you can plan accordingly, rather than getting midway through the day going, oh, I don't have time for this, when you could have known full well ahead of time that you weren't going to have time for it, and then planning accordingly. And so you can, what I love about with a calendar is you can put the stuff in the calendar, and then as you're realistic about how long things are going to take, then you can literally drag and drop things around. So you don't have to delete them and recreate them or anything. You just obviously drag and drop. I have a funny story, which is that I have a 20-month-old son, and he's got, one of his favorite things to do is to create alarms on my phone. I don't know how he does it. He manages to do it while it's locked. He will go in, they'll have all sorts of funny names, mostly 100 different emojis. And I never know when one's going to go off. I keep trying to turn them off, and then he keeps sneaking new ones in. If that's happened to anyone else, feel free to let me know in the comments. Right, that's that. Now we're going to talk about grounding your mind. I gave you a couple of hacks there. Meditation is also super, super helpful for grounding your mind. Now, for most busy people, busy, motivated, high performers, they do not enjoy meditating in a vacuum. And what I mean by that is the concept of them just sitting still and focusing on their breath is like, no, thank you very much. I cannot just focus on that. My mind needs to be more occupied than that. So what I find is for high performers, guided meditations are a lot more effective, and a guided meditation is where you're being talked to all the way through. And so you're receiving prompts about what to picture, what to visualize, for example, your mission, for example, the value of your offerings, for example, that your cells are healthy and that your cells are well. That's a really good thing to visualize, especially right now, and actually can have an impact on immunity, because of the impact of our thoughts on our biology, which is scientifically proven and backed up. An amazing man called Dr. Bruce Lipton has done lots of research into this. and that can make a big difference. Again, like I said, also knowing that you're not your thoughts. Just because you have a thought doesn't make it the truth. Just because you have a thought of you know, I don't know how my business is going to survive and thrive through this time, doesn't make it the truth. It's just a thought. Our brains are overactive and sometimes feral creatures, and our job is to rein them in like a toddler or a wild horse, to rein them in and say, no, I'm in charge. Here's what's happening. This is the path we're going on. This is what we are going to do. End of story. And that is the presentation portion of what I wanted to say today. And then I wanted to open it up. We have these are my social media links in case anyone wants to follow me. I want to open it up for questions and do what's known as some hot seat coaching with you. So I'd love for you to share in the chat box any challenge that you're facing, anything around your marketing, anything around your mental resilience, and I will give you some hot seat coaching right now. So let's say, for example, that you want to do some more email marketing, but you're not sure where to start with your email marketing. You're not sure what to say right now. Maybe you're stuck with producing new content. Or maybe you have a question about diversifying your offerings, right? Coming up with a smart offering that is different. Something that can work well is if you're a consultant of any kind and you normally engage in longer term agreements, something like a shorter term agreement, right? Can work really well. So the exact same offering over a shorter period of time can work really well. You can also, so let's say that you work with people over a long period to solve 5 or 6 different issues. You can come up with a smaller package of that same thing that is just targeted towards one issue that's over a much more defined, shorter period. That can work well too. There are a lot of people right now who are getting on the online program bandwagon, where they're wanting to create things like home study programs, and they have this vision of the money just pouring in while they sit on the beach or spend time with their family. What I will tell you is, with things like home study programs can work really, really well. At the moment in the market, people really want something that is live, even if it's in a group setting, even if it's in a mass group setting. They want something that's live, and they want the ability to ask you questions. So home study programs can be a good thing to create as a resource for your business in order to impact your customers in a different way. However, it's a good idea, if you're thinking about doing any kind of online program right now, that you do something that is live and you do something that is interactive if you want to sell it. There is an increased sensitivity right now where people just don't want to invest, even if it's very cheap. They are less inclined to invest in something that isn't interactive in any way. If they're relying on your expertise, or they are relying on your information, on your zone of genius, they want to be able to ask you questions about it. So it could be a good time to create things for mass consumption. It can be a good time to write that first book that you've been thinking about writing. It can be a good time to record an online program, but just know that, you know, you can't necessarily expect things that are more hands-off to sell during this time.
So I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
If I ran a shop and I'm about to open in 2 weeks' time, how would you suggest I can market my shop to get people to come back in?
So what I think a lot of business owners have been realizing during this time is there's been a lot of business owners who, like I said at the beginning, have been complacent because they've been so used to people coming in person. They've been so used to word of mouth. They've been so good to having an organic flow. And so there's a lot of, for example, shop owners where they don't have their customers' contact details. And so it's going to be harder for them during this time. So the first thing that I would recommend is that when they do reopen, that they literally get hold of their customers' contact details ASAP. And I'd be looking at what can they do proactively. So for example, they may not have their customers' email addresses, but they might have their postal addresses. And so they might be able to send out either a letter or a postcard to let their customers know that they're thinking of them and to let them know that they can't wait to see them, and to offer them either a promotional code that they can use when they come in on the first time, or to, for example, have something special that's happening in the shop on the day they reopen that's an incentive, or shortly thereafter, that's an incentive to come back in a timely fashion. But definitely, that, and then also some people will be customers who have had a pleasant experience with you. Even if you don't have their email information, you could have they could have, through their own proactiveness, started following you on social media. And so engaging with your customers on social media, posting out relevant content, reminding them of why, yes, they need to be mindful of GDPR, yeah, absolutely. Reminding them of why they need what they have to offer, and reminding them of why it's important. So for example, let's say it's a shop where they do massages, literally going back to basics and saying, hey, did you know that when you have a massage, you release cortisol, like you release cortisol from your body that will have been built up over this stressful time, that physical touch releases oxytocin, which is protective towards your immune system, which can help you to stay well during this period. And when you're well, you can, do what you do best. You can take care of your family, you can work, and so on. And so literally going back to basics and reminding people what are the benefits of what you're offering, so that they're clear, and ideally they can see how it ties back to them making more money. Yeah. It's actually quite easy to tie a massage with making more money.
So thank you, Jamie. So I'm looking forward to when the pubs open and they're giving out complimentary beers and wines for people, to encourage people to come back. It's like, yes.
Exactly. So
one more slightly playful question for you, which is, what's a wee thing?
What?
What's a wee thing? I think you said there's a wee thing.
Did I?
It sounded like.
Maybe it was something that sounded like it. What would it have been? Don't know.
Maybe I misheard, but it sounded like a wee thing. I was intrigued, so I was intrigued by it so much I wrote it down. So.
I mean, I know there's a special thing that you can take to festivals, and probably those could be selling quite well at the moment. If you have one, then you can go in the park, which is quite beneficial because all the loos are closed. But not sure.
Does it help you focus? Anyway, yes. It's
always easier to focus when you don't need to pee, definitely.
Very, very true, very true. So we've got another question, I think, coming in from Lisa.
Yeah, I'm creating resources and services around mental health for East Asians, and this is obviously a bigger pain point during COVID-19. I was literally reading about this last night, how they're just getting such a hard time, which is crazy. I help both individuals to support themselves and health professionals to understand how to support the AME groups. What's your view in the element of certainty that I can provide in this case? What comes to mind to you from a marketing and financial sustainability perspective? Well, the thing is mental health, more and more organizations now are recognizing that when their employees have good mental health, they're able to perform better when they are in the office. They're also less likely to be off sick, either for mental health or physical health issues, which of course are inextricably linked. If your mental health is poor, you are much more likely to get physically unwell. So I would be looking at targeting a couple of big companies, for example, global companies like Thomson Reuters, like SAP, where they have a big BAME population and their employees, their East Asian and other employees may be suffering right now because of what's going on, and letting them know, hey, look, I can help you to ensure that your BAME employees are performing well, that your BAME employees are focused, that they are empowered, and that they are able to work because they are mentally and physically healthy, right? I mean, obviously you can't guarantee that they're all going to be physically healthy, but you can guarantee that there will be an improvement and a protective aspect with their mental and physical health. So that would be the certainty, that it would be productivity and well-being, which productivity and well-being are inextricably linked. Robert says, hi, hello. Oh, Lisa said, I think you were referring to woo-woo. I think you were. So woo-woo is like fluffy, like, let me wave my magic wand, or, you know, let me, actually, I do have some aura spray here.
You've got a magic wand.
So aura spray is very woo-woo. It's like intangible and can be beneficial, but it might be scientifically difficult to prove the efficacy of.
Okay.
So Varsha says, hi, I run Notting Hill Gate Opticians. Our USP is giving the most care we can to patients, longer, more through eye examinations, a much better service overall. Before the pandemic, I feel people were happier to pay for that better service and better eye exams, but I worry that post-pandemic people won't have enough spending power and will turn to the cheaper franchises. We're very competitive on prices, and I firmly believe you get more than what you pay for with us, but it's still a worry. And Varsha and I met. Yeah, of course I do remember you. So yes, I'm so glad that you raised this, Varsha, because the truth is that there are expensive options that are expensive just for the sake of it, just because they've just decided, hey, we're going to be more expensive. My experience of, as both a consumer and as a coach and a mentor, is that with most businesses that are more expensive, they're more expensive because they provide a better service, and the quality of that service is actually much better. If you were to look at it in a like in a mathematical way, proportionally the quality of the service is much better than the price. So the quality of the service, for example, it might be twice as good quality but only 20% more expensive, right? And the same can apply for both products and services. So what I would be looking at is the educational piece of helping people see why having a better service is going to benefit them. So why having a better service is going to save them time and money. For example, if they go for a super quick and dirty, like cheap franchise, what's the risk to them? Yeah. For example, do they risk getting the wrong prescription? Do they risk getting glasses that they don't love because they felt rushed into it, versus having a more personalized service, and then they end up with a pair of glasses that they don't really want, and then they have to buy them again? I would be looking at an educational piece on both social media, and if you have people's contact information, letting them know why it's really important that they have a quality experience, and that they resist the urge with with their eye tests to go for the cheaper option, because it can cost them a lot more in the long term. And then I'd also be potentially going into some of the like the biological information, i.e. if they get the wrong prescription, what's the long-term impact that that could have on their eyesight. Let me know if that's helpful. If anyone wants to have a free conversation with me, normally a 30-minute conversation with me is £97, but for anyone who's on this webinar today, if you want to have a free conversation with me, where I'll brainstorm with you about things you can do to protect your business during this time, not a pitch, literally just me helping you, then just send me a message. You can go onto any of my social media profiles and send me a message, and we'll set up a call. Robert says, hi Jamie, we use LinkedIn to market BGM to our contacts and followers. Fantastic. LinkedIn is a good way to go. Most of the other platforms, I mean, I know TikTok is doing well, but who even cares about TikTok? Nobody's interested in TikTok. LinkedIn is great though, because you can get a lot of traction very quickly, whereas Facebook's reach is just going to rubbish. We seem to have issues getting our staff to post and forward our content. Any suggestion? Also, how would you go about increasing our followers? So I'd be looking at a competition, Robert. So running an internal competition whereby if people share your corporate content onto their personal profiles, they are entered into a draw, and then maybe once a week or once a month, one person wins something magical. could be cash, could be £100 cash, could be a voucher for something that they can actually redeem during this time, like Waitrose or similar. And I'd also, I think the other thing I'd be doing is sitting everyone down and helping them understand why it's important, helping them understand the value of content sharing and the impact that it has on your business, and the impact that them as an employee with existing credibility and existing authority with their connections, how meaningful that is to your business and the growth of your business, and how much more meaningful a referral is that's come from an employee than something cold traffic, and how that ultimately feeds into their pay packets. If the business is successful, they get paid more. If the business is not successful, then, you know, so when in doubt, money. Jill says, are you marketing from your business LinkedIn account or from your personal LinkedIn accounts? The latter will be seen as more authentic. I recommend, and I have been in a LinkedIn mastermind, I recommend only using a personal LinkedIn account. Business LinkedIn accounts just don't do well at all. Having said that, business groups are quite a good thing to leverage on LinkedIn that have become newly available. Ask a question at the end of your post, which invites comments, and reply to every comment, preferably adding value in some way on each. Yes, it's great to ask questions at the end of posts, as long as it's authentic. If you're asking a question there's an authentic way to ask a question at the end of a post, and then there's a spammy way to ask a question at the end of a post. If it is genuinely relevant to your post, go for it. If you're just trying to do it to tick the box of, yep, I asked a question at the end of a post, don't do it. Many of my posts that have got the most engagement, and many of my clients' posts that have got the most engagement, have been posts that don't have questions at the end. They're thought-provoking. They are perhaps a little bit provocative. It's a great idea to talk about what you're passionate about, what you believe in, and what you are against. Those tend to perform really highly. I wrote a post a couple of days ago about all these people, blank, all these blanks who add me on LinkedIn, and it's like helping coaches generate leads, and I did a screenshot, and there was like 8 of these buggers back to back, and if you accept them, they just spam you. And I wrote a post about it and said, I'm sure that these people are legit, but most people with this kind of headline are just spammy people. And it caused quite the storm, which was good. It was good to get some, you know, healthy debate going on. Robert says we use both types of account, personal for people, business for BGM. Yes, great. That's always a good idea. Jill did the Game Changers Summit. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I talked about money and wealth mindset blocks. It was a summit. If anyone wants the recording to the interview that I did in the Game Changer Summit, just send me a message and I'm happy to share it. Because right now, scarcity mindset is a big issue. There's a lot of people, even very successful people, going into scarcity mindset, and then it just messes everything up. You can't perform at your highest if you're in a scarcity mindset. Yes, ethical bribery, Robert, exactly. Nicholas has to go. I'm glad he enjoyed it, even though he's gone now. Does anyone have any final questions?
I've got a comment about your, you can hear me, can you?
Yes.
Great. I think you allow your son to access your phone on a lock screen. You can just flick it up. And there's a way I think you can disarm that. So therefore he doesn't set alarms for you. Does that help?
No way.
Yeah.
I'm normally very technically savvy. How do you do that?
I don't know how you turn it off, but that, yeah, I know the others will know this, but that's the...
In Jamie, in settings,
yeah,
there's quick access settings, and you're looking for the quick access because basically it's the thing where you push the button twice and it takes you straight through to the camera or something. Your iPad has them as well.
I'll do some more research after we've wound down today.
Thank
I couldn't find it. I thought I should really. Well, it'll save it going off in the night and things. Isn't it?
Jamie, what do you do? Right. So for the Chamber of Commerce, we've got a LinkedIn account, and then I've got my own personal LinkedIn account. The thing is that because of my background is really different than the job I'm doing now. How do you marry those two together to do marketing when I'm really passionate about parenting and food, and that essentially has nothing to do with the Chamber of Commerce? So you're saying that you talk about what you're passionate about and you get better traction when you do personal posts, but they have nothing to do with the Chamber. So I tend to post as the Chamber when it's about something relevant, and I don't want to muddle the social media message, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily that personal posts always do better. My post about the LinkedIn thing, I actually turned it into something that was about business, because I said, anyway, it doesn't really matter what I said, but there are ways to talk about things that you're passionate about and bring it back to business. There's also, so there's some personal branding and business branding experts who will say, only ever talk about one thing, only talk about the thing you sell, never talk about anything else. And in certain types of business and for certain types of individuals, that can work really well. However, the truth is, like I said earlier in the presentation, people buy people. And so as long as you don't have too many themes, even if you have 2 different types of business that you're engaged with, you can still talk about them both on one profile. And that's all part of really owning that you're a multifaceted human being and you care about more than one thing. So if you really want to, you know, you could, for example, focus on content that relates to the Chambers of Commerce on your LinkedIn, and then use your personal Facebook page for the parenting and the health stuff. If you yourself have that desire for a dichotomy, and definitely people tend to, on Facebook and Instagram, they're more likely to engage in stuff that is related to them personally as like human beings as opposed to professionals, though of course the two are interlinked. So you might find that that would work well, would be to have that split between the different platforms.
And then my Twitter feed is a bit more about women's rights. Women and children's rights and safeguarding. So I tend to keep that quite away from the chamber as well.
So I guess the issue is, if someone's interested, so let's say you launch your offering for helping parents keep their children healthy, yeah, and then maybe you do a webinar like this and you talk about it, and then you have your social media links, or maybe you don't have your social media links, but people look you up because they think that was a really good talk and I want to follow her on every available platform. If they reach different platforms and they see contradictory messages.
Oh no, they don't contradict. They're definitely.
Yeah, no, just bear with me though. Bear with me.
Yeah. Okay.
If they see different platforms and they see contradictory messages, it can distract them from your message and distract them from their sense of you having a coherent brand, even if they're aware that you're multifaceted. However, consumers especially, it's less so in the B2B market, but consumers especially are quite open-minded about, they recognize that you have certain offerings and that you're also a multifaceted human being, and that especially on somewhere like Twitter, you might also talk about some things that are not what you offer, but they're part of what you stand for as a human being and what your values are as a human being. And what your values are as a human being is all part of what they buy into when they're buying you. So I would just be keeping an eye on the ratio.
Okay.
So we don't want to have more than 30% of our content be unrelated to what it is that we're offering. So let's say that you've just launched something in a particular area. Bye, Jill. Lovely to see you. Let's say that you've just launched something, a particular offering. It would be a good idea to only talk about content that is, to have 70% of your content at least be relevant to that thing that you're offering for at least 1 month beforehand.
Okay.
I'm going to give you another example. Because I talk about marketing, I talk about mindset, and I also talk about money. Those are my 3 things. And so I will naturally oscillate between talking about those things on different platforms. But if I've got something that's coming, like a marketing program, you'll see that before that program launches, in the run up to that program, a lot more of my content is just about marketing.
Okay.
So it's about planning strategically, and it's also about knowing that you don't have to just have an idea and click post. So it can work well to be in flow with your content, but if you're too much in flow with your content without planning, you can end up inadvertently confusing your audience.
And you dilute the message.
So I think for you, with some careful planning, which could be done over the course of half a day, for example, you could map out a whole year's content and thread these multiple aspects of you together really beautifully.
Okay.
So thank you, Jamie. So today's session has been, I think, really, really useful. So I'm going to add some woo-woo into my life.
Not wee-wee, woo-woo.
Not wee-wee. Apologies for being slightly deaf. Just for everybody's information, next week, these are uncertain times. Next week, we got Robert Moore, who's on the screen here somewhere in front of us, is going to do a session on kind of moving your business forward. So yes, it is a period of uncertainty. It's also a time of opportunity as well for businesses to kind of transform what you're doing and how you're doing it. So Robert's going to do a session on that next week at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, and we can look forward to that. And I'm just on behalf of everyone to say thank you to you, Jamie, for your session today. So I've learned a few things, which is great. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you so
So
much for having me.
people, I think, are welcome just to stay on and to kind of chat and that sort of stuff. Or I think we'll stop recording and go private now.
Great.
Oh, Jamie.
Nicola, can you stop the recording, please?
No, I can't. Jamie, you need to give me back the host, please.
Okay. Can you let me know? Because I want to just ask Robert about next week.
Manage participants, Nicola.
So you go.
Done.
Thank you.
If anyone has any final questions, feel free to just let me know in the chat box.